1045 The Team right here in Albany, New York, joined by our good friend who covers the Mets for ESPN New York, Adam Rubin. Of course, a great follow on Twitter at Adam Rubin ESPN. First things first, how close was Yoenis Cespedes to being a National?
Well, I don't know that for sure, but if he did have a 5-year, $100 million offer on the table, it's really interesting and I think surprising from the Mets perspective that he did return to the Mets. Now, there's an entirely big possibility that he'll have a much bigger payday than that next winter, assuming he opts out and he's going to get $27.5 million this year. But the Mets were certainly fortunate. This is not something they expected a week ago, and it really sets them up nicely for 2016.
Adam, does this contract, the 3-year, $75 million, and as you mentioned, the 1-year opt-out clause, does this give Cespedes like all the power when it comes to negotiations moving forward?
Well, I mean, if he's injured or really underperforms, the Mets will be on the hook for the 3 years at the $75 million. But I think the real likelihood is he collects the $27.5 million this year, opts out at the end of the year. The Mets could give him a qualifying offer and at least get a draft pick out of it, which they weren't able to do this past winter or this winter. And then he tests the market again. The free agent class, there's no Justin Uptons, there's no big time free agents next winter, at least position player wise. So Cespedes, assuming he has a year similar to this past year, at least when he came to the Mets, is setting himself up for a very big payday.
Adam, just what exactly does bringing Cespedes back do to the Mets lineup?
Well, the Mets have such strong starting pitching. It would have been a shame to waste it. I mean, this really infuses the lineup. If Cespedes were not here, you were looking at a platoon of Juan Lagares and Alejandro De Aza in center field, and that might have been productive, but it's much more productive with Cespedes coupled with Conforto and Granderson as the starters and Lagares and De Aza pretty much going to the bench. I'm sure those guys will get some playing time, but obviously it's a much stronger lineup. I don't know exactly how Terry Collins is going to do his lineup, but Granderson most certainly would be the leadoff hitter. If Neil Walker is the number 2 hitter, you may be talking Cespedes 3, due to 4, which pushes David right down to 5, which is probably a good place for him at this stage of his career at age 33 with all the back issues. And then the rest of the lineup is pretty credible too. If you do have a righty hitter at number 5, then you could have Conforto, a lefty, at number 6. Darno was a pretty good hitter when he's healthy and staying in the lineup, number 7. And then conceivably the shortstop is Dribble Cabrera, who's a capable hitter too at number 8. So it's a much deeper lineup than minus Cespedes.
1045 The Team, joined by Adam Rubin. He covers the Mets for ESPN.com. Adam, the fan base very tough on the Mets, not bringing in talent and stuff like that. Should they be happy with what they're hearing right now with this move?
I think so. There was a lot of frustration with the Mets fan base about the payroll level. If this move had not happened, the Mets payroll would have been a little over $110 million or so, right around there, which for a New York team is not really acceptable. And Sandy Alderson a few years ago had promised that once the fans started showing up, and they would spend, and it didn't look like that was going to happen. And maybe it's luck, but the ownership did show the commitment. The payroll is going to be over $138 million this year. It's going to approach, it may even exceed $140 million this year, which is a level we haven't seen with the Mets in a fair amount of time since Omar Minaya was the GM. So certainly the days of real frugality are over with the Mets, although I'm sure fans will still be upset that it's not quite where the Yankees are.
You mentioned that great starting pitching, Adam. How's Zack Wheeler coming along in his rehab, and when can we expect him back on the mound?
Well, Zack underwent the Tommy John surgery last March, so we're not at the year spot yet. He's supposed to be thrown off a mound any day if he hasn't done so already. They're eyeing June or July for the Wheeler return, and it'll be interesting to see what happens at that point. Bartolo Colon, even though he's not promised a rotation spot all year, re-signed with the Mets, so he's going to be in the rotation to start the year. I could see them when Wheeler comes back in June or July easing him in and giving guys extra rest by doing a 6-man rotation, maybe a few turns or something like that. But if everyone's healthy come July, if Wheeler's back, it's entirely possible that Bartolo Colon ends up in the bullpen, which he did a very good job last year. And it really underscores how good a job Terry Collins has done in making the Mets an attractive place for a free agent to go. Because if you go back to last trade deadline, Wilmer Flores was crying when he thought he was leaving the Mets. Zack Wheeler at that point called Sandy Alderson asking to stay. And then you saw Bartolo Colon, even though he's not promised a starting job all year, decide to re-sign with the Mets, and now Cespedes comes on a short-term deal. So everything's really coming together nicely for the Mets, and they've created a clubhouse atmosphere where players want to be.
Adam Rubin covers the Mets for ESPN.com. Follow him on Twitter at Adam Rubin ESPN. Speaking of adding players, Antonio Bastardo, what does he add to that bullpen?
Well, certainly he has very good numbers against some of the big-time lefty hitters in the National League East, including Freddie Freeman, who has had very little success against him at all. So he'll be a primary setup man along with Addison Reed going into Jeurys Familia. Last year, the formula, at least late in the season after the trades, was Addison Reed and Tyler Clippard leading into Familia. This year it's going to be minus Clippard, and it'll be with Bastardo. So they'll have those two guys, capable guys, setting up. They'll also have a couple of pretty capable lefties. Jerry Blevins had a couple quirky injuries last year, the lefty, but he's going to be the primary lefty at the start of the season, barring some other crazy injury. You know, he got hit with the line drive in his left forearm after the really good start to the season, and then he tripped on a curb somehow in St. Lucie when he was getting close to getting back and missed the rest of the year. But lefty batters were 0 for 14 against him last year before the injury. And then Josh Edgin, who had a very good 2014, should be back from his Tommy John surgery about a month into the season. So you're talking about a pretty capable bullpen when you add Bastardo, and then you talk about guys rounding it out like Eric Goodell and Hansel Robles and guys like that.
Wilmer Flores and Ruben Tejada helped get the Mets to the World Series. It's a starting middle infield duo in the playoffs. They're replaced by Asdrubal Cabrera and Neil Walker. What are your thoughts on those moves?
Well, I mean, certainly I think a lot of fans wanted to see Daniel Murphy come back, and it wasn't an exorbitant deal. He got a 3-year, was a $37.5 million deal from the Nationals, so the Mets could have done something like that. They chose not to. They preferred Walker, the defense, other things, to Murphy approaches the play and things like that. So Walker's only going to be under contract for 1 year. Cabrera's under contract, I think, for 2 years. So it buys time for a prospect like Dilson Herrera, who's at AAA. He'll open this year again at Las Vegas to stay there another year. And I think it's a pretty capable infield. I mean, certainly there's going to be some defensive questions now, especially with Cespedes in center field. And you don't really have, last year Kadire could swing over to first base. Murphy could play first base on days Duda didn't play. There's no real bona fide backup first baseman right now. I suppose Wilmer Flores is going to be the guy. He's played there some in the minor leagues, who would be the backup to Duda at first base, maybe against some tough lefties. But issues defensively aside, this is a much stronger team to start this year than it was to start last year.
Adam, when you look at the fact that Piazza's 31 is going to be retired, we play the Yankees games. We get a lot of Yankees fans who call up and think too many numbers are retired for the Pinstripes. How big of an honor is it for Piazza to have that 31 retired by the Mets?
Well, if there are too many with the Yankees, there are far too few with the Mets. I mean, in terms of guys who played as players for the Mets, it's now going to only be Piazza, who's going to be honored on July 30th, and Tom Seaver. And then you have Gil Hodges and Casey Stengel, too. And then, obviously, the number across baseball, too, for Jackie Robinson. So people, I know on Twitter, reacting to the Piazza announcement would love to see Keith Hernandez. They would love to see the late Gary Carter's numbers retired. I'm not sure those are in the offing anytime soon, but certainly with the Mets, it's a long time coming, both with Piazza, and there's other people that are probably overdue for having their number retired, although I don't know if we'll see another number retired with the Mets until David Wright retires, perhaps.
He's Adam Rubin. He covers the Mets for ESPN, and great follow at Adam Rubin ESPN. Now, whenever I think of you, like if I see the Mets, you're the first person I think of. Will you allow yourself a couple hours off to watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I'm going to someone's house, although there's going to be so many kids running around. I'm not sure how much of the Super Bowl we're actually going to watch. Actually, I'm not much of a football fan at all, to be honest, but I did watch the end of that Patriots game yesterday, which was absolutely unbelievable.
Is it now? When you're at a party, how long does it take before somebody asks you a Mets question? Like, I imagine you're like a doctor, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, what does this look like to you? Like, the second you walk in, is somebody going, what's the deal with Wright's back?
Well, let's just say I'm very relieved that Cespedes was finally signed somewhere.
Perfect. Adam, thank you so much for making time for us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.